Hello, my fellow readers. I, Dark Symphony 777 with a new fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below for any future fanfictions you want me to read or review, as well as your own opinions. And remember, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone's opinion, so please enjoy. And finally, this video contains, the story I'm reviewing contains elements that are not eligible for anyone under the age 18. Viewer discretion is advised. So, now that I got that out of the way, it's been a long time coming. I've been trying to read the stories. It's going to go faster until I hit the newest one. I'm finally going to be able to tackle the Island series by Brony Wan Kenobi. I actually have, like, sort of a history with the story, not from, more towards the new subscribers. The first story that I actually got a suggestion of was a part of the series, Pip's Treasure Chest. It's a My Little Pony story. It's an erotic story, hence why I did the whole under 18 thing, not allowed to watch it. This is probably going to be put on the age restriction. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, probably, I don't know. I'm more iffy about reviews. Readings, I'll probably do that. But I thought, you know, since I was told that a couple weeks ago, I think maybe a month ago, that the sequel was finished, I get a chance to review that, and I thought, why not? Why don't I just review the entire series? It's only about adding this 5 more stories, so it's like. So we're going to be starting from the beginning with Secret Island and ending with Pip's Treasure Chest 2. So the series encompasses 6 stories, now counting 7 because now there's a new story in the series. I actually went on Brony Wan Kenobi's FanFiction page and checked it out. I'm not going to review that one yet because it literally just started, I think, about a couple days ago. So we have Secret Island, Nightmare Night Fun, Dangerous Mix, which is probably my favorite until, like, Pip's Treasure Chest 2 kind of blows me away, possibly. And Anniversary. I'm not going to do Pip's Treasure Chest because I already reviewed that. And then, lastly, Pip's Treasure Chest 2. So, we're going to start with Secret Island. Now, in terms of a plot, Pip's Treasure Chest, and this is probably one of the 2 only complaints I have about the story, is compared to all the other stories, this one's pretty bare bones in plot. I mean, it's pretty much a PW. I believe PWP means porn with plot. Or does it mean porn without plot? I don't know. Basically, the plot of Secret Island is Princess Luna invites the Apple family, Big Mac, Applejack, and Apple Bloom, to a secret island where, you know, they can relax and have fun. And have lots of sex. Yes, lots of sex. Big Mac and Luna, they kind of confess their love to each other. And then Applejack kind of falls in love with the guard that Luna has stationed there. And so now and then Apple Bloom's like, is kept away from everything. It's like, we don't want her to know she's underage. She's underage. The ponies are anthropomorphized. If you don't know what anthrop is short for anthropomorphization, it's basically a term used in literature to give human characteristics to non-human objects, such as objects like a microphone. Like, you can give a microphone like a sexy bayonet legs, and you'll be anthropomorphizing it. I cannot pronounce that word. I know the word. I know what it means. I just can't say it for some reason. And so people do this to ponies to kind of give them a full body figure. You know, each of them kind of give different interpretations. Most common interpretation of the main 6 is they give Rarity the hourglass. They usually make Pinky like slightly pudgy. Or they either make her skinny or they make her slightly pudgy because with all the eating, you know, she's got to have some weight on her. Fluttershy, they usually stack her like pancakes. It's like everyone has like flat. Fluttershy, bonk. Applejack, they kind of make her muscular. Rainbow Dash, they make her lean, so she has a little bit of muscle. And then Twilight is the plain Jane. She doesn't really have anything going for her. She doesn't have any curves. She's just kind of there. And usually, boobs and butts are usually writer's preference. Like I said, they usually stack Fluttershy like pancakes. And it's basically just a bunch of sex. I mean, again, compared to the other stories in the series, the plot is pretty bare bones. It's just they go to an island. Big Mac and Luna confess their love. Applejack falls in love, and there's a lot of sex. That's it. That's pretty much the sum of the plot. I mean, there's a reason why they explains why there is like sort of a kind of plot at the end involving Celestia kind of being scared of military. But I'm going to talk about that a little later. But overall, the plot is done at least relatively good. I mean, for what it is, it's just basically just a simple porn story. It's just that's literally it. The only plot of I'm on the island is trying to get Apple Bloom away. That's pretty much it. The only sort of plot is Apple Bloom wanting a sister and hanging out with Luna for like all of a couple paragraphs. That's it. The rest of it is just porn, sex. Applejack loves anal, food play. What say you? But it's at least handled It's at least handled well enough to say I don't hate it. I don't like really long porn stories because they usually tend to drag on. So you gotta add a plot, and I think this was just at the threshold. If it went on any longer, I would have said this is getting boring, this is getting tedious. And even then, the author could have cut out some content in the third chapter, because I was just getting kind of, man. The sex was becoming mundane. The food play was nice, but I mean, I would have liked them to like just hang out and do a couple paragraphs with them just kind of hanging out. But it's hands off. I do like the last chapter kind of establishing a couple of plot points for the later parts of the series. We have the scene in the military academy referencing a dangerous mix, which is going to take place there. There is the info dump in the last chapter, which I'm going to talk more in detail about, but that's more getting ready for Nightmare Night fun. And, you know, you already have two established plot points for the stories. Character development, it's pretty bare bones too. The only character to get development is Applejack and Harvest Moon, the Thestral, the Bat Pony Thestral, however you want to pronounce it, that journeys with Luna to, you know, be their guard. So, we have 5 ponies, and only really 2 of them get development, because Apple Bloom, they're trying to get her out of the way, and the character development for Mac and Luna is established in a small info dump. Now, I don't like that info dump because of the simple fact, if this was a single story, like not even part of a series, a single story, then I would tolerate it. I would say, okay, fine. It's just, you know, trying to establish some wavelength, some establishment with why the characters know each other and why they fall for each other. I can tolerate it. But you have the story part of a series, which makes stuff like this a harder sell because there's something as plot holes. Plot holes are existing storylines that don't really go anywhere, that just end abruptly with no conclusion, or in terms of past tense, they're mentioned very vaguely and don't get elaborated on enough to really warrant being referenced past tense. And the Mac Luna thing is an example of the latter. We don't know enough details to really want to care about that backstory. If it was more detailed, then it wouldn't be more of a problem. If it eventually becomes its own story, just a small little prequel to the entire series of just telling what happened to Luna and Mac long ago before they went on the island, and they kind of started having feelings for each other. I could appreciate that, but we haven't gotten anything like that yet. We have Secret Island, which is more focused on Luna and Mac and Applejack and Harvest. And then you have Nightmare Night Fun, which is more focused on Twilight. Then you have Dangerous Mix, which is focused on Harvest Moon and Diamond Tiara. And then Anniversary, which is, again, Mac and Luna. And then Pip's Just 1 and 2, which is Pipsqueak and a character, and Succubus. Then the newest story, which is basically Spike, Sweetie Belle, and Ember? Yeah, Ember. So there's not enough in the backstory to really warrant the backstory. So it's like, it's like you can easily just cut this out. It wouldn't really change anything. If it was by itself, I wouldn't care. But it's either you elaborate it, or you basically make it its own story. It has to be one or the other. Grammar, I didn't see any grammar. Pacing, for what it is, the sex scenes were paced nicely. They went on long enough to titillate the readers and anyone who wants to clop or, fap, whatever let's say you. The sex scenes are slightly varied. It does get like a little vanilla, and so the food play kind of mixes it up, along with the contest of them, with Luna cloning herself, and Applejack implying that she really likes BDSM. Okay, that's fine. But it goes. I think there was too much sex scenes to really warrant it. Oh, there we go. Sorry, my neck was bothering me. Been bothering me since yesterday. Sorry about that. But the pacing was done nicely. Now, I have a problem with the last chapter. I don't like the last chapter. Sure, it sets up Dangerous Mix pretty nicely, as well as Nightmare Night Fun, but there's no need for that massive info dump at the end. There was no need for that. Again, this kind of goes off on, reviewing the story as is. If it was a single story, fine, have the info dump. But with the series, the info dump, where it is, and it's not even the fact the info dump is used. Info dumps, when used in the right way, are pretty obvious and well tried and true way of, getting some information out really fast in case, to catch the reader up in case they come in case the lapsed readers. Going back to my very first big ol' fan fiction, Roger the Navigator, it had a pretty good way of using an info dump to catch the reader up to anyone who are fans of the show who didn't get a chance to catch up. That was a well done use of info dump. This is actually a pretty useful way of dumping the information because it was a 7-year time skip. So that's fair, except for one thing. This was not the story to use this. If there was no other stories in the series, then fine, leave it right there. But since there's other stories in the series, that gigantic the info dump with Celestia and all that, it can go. And I'll explain what I'll do at the end. Would I recommend this story? If you're under 18, no. If you're over 18, I'm more over 18. I'm more. It's the sex. There's just too much sex for the length of it. I believe. Let's see. I actually have a link to the story. Let's see. How long is the story? Minus the last chapter, the story is around 30, around 31,000 words. That's usually way too long for just a pure porn story without trying to get some kind of plot in there. So I can't recommend the story. I recommended Pip's Treasure Chest because it at least had a plot to warrant the sex scenes, to tie in the sex scenes, so that way it didn't just, so there wasn't just sex, so much sex. Oh, here's some anal, sex, food, play, cloning, tit jobs, sodomy. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, gang rape. It's just, when going past a certain threshold, you have to at least have some sort of plot to tie in the sex scenes. The sex scenes are fine as is. It's just, there's so much sex and not enough connective tissue to tie it in together that you get, it kind of becomes boring immediately after. The first time I read the story, which was before I reviewed Pip's Treasure Chest, because I actually read every single story, and then I did Pip's Treasure Chest, and then I reviewed that story. I kind of got bored during, like, partway through the third chapter, so it's like, so it just became really boring, because all we really saw, outside of the only plot-related stuff, which was Apple Bloom, was sex. I mean, sex. It's just too much sex, not enough ways to connect the dots. And so it's just, if you're a fan of erotic stories, then I guess, but if you're not, then turn this one down. Not to mention, again, this is not even the best story of the series. That's like Pip's Treasure Chest and Dangerous Mix. I actually really love Dangerous Mix because I think that's still the best of the entire series. Simply because I really love what the author did with Diamond Tiara in that story. I'll review that story when I get to it. I still have to do Nightmare Night Fun before I get to Dangerous Mix. So, you know, we have that. Favorite part, I guess I have to be the info dump. Despite the fact I don't really like the info dump used in this way, I really liked what the author did with the info dump in the last chapter, the time skip chapter, because it fully establishes the world, what this world is going to be like, and establishes every other story that takes place after it, which is a nice use of a sequel hook. It has enough loose ends that, okay, you can go any which way you want to go, but also tries to establish this world and what's it like, what separates it from the original Equestria to this world, and it's done in a way that makes sense, that I really, really like. That being said, if I had to fix anything with the story, first off, it needs more chapters. They're there for about a week. So, and there's only 3 chapters of them on the island. There is the Bikini Goddess, the first chapter, which is, I'm guessing, the first day of the first, and I think the second days, and then the last day, which is the last day of the 7th day, and then Apokini, which is sometime in between. There's just not enough. I think you could have at least 2 chapters of them just goofing off, having fun, showcasing that, so that way we have more tying in, a better connective tissues to tie in the sex scenes, so that way they're better built up. The readers can relax and get our mindset ready for the next sex scene. If it was a shorter story, then I wouldn't complain, because I think the threshold for a sex scene is about 10,000. Anything that goes over 10,000, no, not 10,000, about 6,000. Anything over 6,000, you have to have at least some sort of plot, and the longer it goes, the more you have to try and, tie in all the sex scenes together. So therefore, you have to tie, the longer the story is, the more you have to build between sex scenes to get the readers in the mindset, to get them, you know, to get them psyched for when it happens again. And there's just not enough. There needs to be more chapters to bridge the events. It's like maybe like like a 2 or 3 chapters, like just talking about them just hanging out on the island, no sex at all, and more talk and more backstory, like you know, trying to establish more of this backstory than anything. That being said, and finally, make a new story involving Mac and Luna's relationship, how they met, make that a new story, just be more simpler that way. And finally, that info dump at the end with Celestia. I like the info dump, I like what the author did with it, it just doesn't need to be in the story. I think since Nightmare Night Fun is technically revolving around Celestia's sort of mindset around the whole thing, it just make a lot more sense to move that entire info dump to that story. I mean, you don't have to change anything. Just move that entire part and just move it to the second story in the series. That's really it. Try and tie that into the second story. You don't have to add anything. You don't have to change anything. Just move wholesale to Nightmare Night Fun. Overall, I think this is a decent story. I think it's more just a rough draft to establish this world and its rules to us, the reader, and showcase, you know, the author's sexual pursuits and sexual writing. Because, you know, not every single writer can write erotic stories. It takes a specific mindset, and I understand that. But I think with the length of the story it's just not long enough. And it just doesn't have enough going for it for me to really like it outside of just the last chapter. And the last chapter is 9,000 words. Okay, so 9,000 words out of a 40,000 word story? What? So it's like it's really weird. So that's my review on The Secret Island. Sorry for being so. Oh, it's not that short. So that's my review on Secret Island. Next time I'll be doing Nightmare Night Fun. I will see you next time. This will be Dark Symphony 777, and